So there's a question that's been on my mind since Sunday morning. And the question is, why Galilee? So this year, the gospel for Easter Sunday came from Mark. And Mark's resurrection account is a bit cryptic. If you remember Sunday morning's gospel, we get Mary Magdalene and another woman going to the tomb at dawn. They find that the stone has been rolled away, and there's a young man in a white robe sitting inside the tomb, and he tells them, Jesus is not here, but go and tell his disciples and Peter, he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him. Now, according to scholars, that's pretty much where the original version of Mark's gospel ends, right there. The gospel as we now have it has some additional verses, but those were tacked on years later. In the gospel as Mark wrote it, no one actually sees the risen Christ. Just the empty tomb and that young man in white with his strange message. He's going to Galilee before you, and there you will see him. So I'm scratching my head since Sunday morning over this. Why wouldn't Jesus just reveal himself in Jerusalem like he does in this morning's gospel from Luke? I mean, Jerusalem, that's where the resurrection actually took place. Everyone was already there. The women, Peter and the disciples, Jesus himself. So why does Mark say, go to Galilee? What theological point is Mark trying to make here? As I've been thinking about this since Sunday, I've come up with two possibilities. Galilee is where Jesus began. It's where he gathered his first disciples and where he first proclaimed the kingdom of God. And soon enough, great crowds of people were following all through the Galilean countryside. In Jerusalem, Jesus was rejected and killed. But in Galilee, he was welcomed and believed in. Maybe that's why the disciples would find him there after the resurrection. Galilee was the land of faith. And faith, more than eyewitness, would be prerequisite for encountering the risen Christ. So that's one point. Here's another. Galilee wasn't Jerusalem. Galilee wasn't a cosmopolitan crossroads of cultures as Jerusalem was. In Galilee, there's no great palaces, there's no monumental temple. Galilee is a rough and tumble kind of place. If you think about the gospel stories from Jesus' ministry, Galilee is a landscape haunted by the blind and the lame, by those who were hungry and hopeless. Galilee is not the land of the high and the mighty. It's the land of the poor. And maybe that's another prerequisite. The risen Christ can be found by those and among those who are in some way poor and burdened and oppressed. He is going before you to Galilee, says the young man at the tomb of Jesus. There you will see him. I think that's a message for us, for those of us today who long to meet the risen Christ. We will find him by venturing deeper into the land of faith and amidst our own poverty and the poverty of those around us, whether that's poverty of a material nature or a bodily nature or a spiritual nature. It's there in our poverty that the risen Christ is waiting for us.